This is at the Camp Bar, which is a very popular place in the Third Ward. Camp Bar shut down at 12:30 at night rather than 4 a.m. So restaurant and bar businesses, if they didn't have booked events, if they did not have booked events with the RNC, they pretty much had little to no business. So I think that was very unfortunate because there was this thought that downtown was going to be locked down, so none of the regular customers came. The RNC people were pretty much locked in to the secure perimeter, and so you had this strange situation that if the business was not within the perimeter, they saw very little business.
Alderman Johnson, what do you think about big companies like Pfizer, Bayer, Northwestern Mutual having their employees work from home during the RNC? Do you think that had any impact on
Yes, I think it had a major impact. But what are they going to do? I mean, you saw the condition of downtown streets, very difficult to move around. You couldn't, hours to get into the soft zone at the automobile checkpoints, literally hours in some cases. And you guys all reported on that. I saw the reports.
Did you think it was going to be that hard to get around?
Yes, and that's why I literally explained to people going in that if you lived or had a business within the soft zone, consider leaving town because it's going to be very hard to come and go. And that turned out to be 100% correct. You know, I think we underestimated the adverse impact of this event. You know, I'm sure Milwaukee looked great, but how many of these people actually got around Milwaukee? How many did walk down to the lakefront or got to the art museum or got into Milwaukee neighborhoods? We've heard reports from Bronzeville businesses that they saw like no business from this event. We were told how all the outlying areas of the city, the neighborhoods, were going to see activity. I don't think they saw much of any activity. Bronzeville, I believe, even rented a shuttle bus to take people around, and they had no customers, no takers for the shuttle bus. So obviously, if we generate leads from this, convention leads, I guess that's great. But as a practical matter, it was kind of oversold in terms of the economic development impact, and especially bar and restaurant. Hotels, I'm sure, did very well. They were filled, people had to live somewhere. But as far as, again, the hospitality industry, I think, did not do that well from this event.
So what do you think should have been done? Is there something that could have been done leading up to it?
Well, I think if there had been a realistic understanding of the pros and cons, I think we might have taken a different position on hosting the event in the first place. Because I think for a city Milwaukee size, this kind of event strained our capacity to the absolute limit versus bigger cities like Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Houston, where they, given their scale, given their size, the ability to absorb these kinds of events more effectively. So we were strained to the absolute limit of our capacity. I think we pulled it off from a logistics standpoint, but I think we might have taken a different tact or a different view of hosting it in the first place.
As a whole, because I know the reason that leaders were pushing so hard for the RNC in Milwaukee was to put it on the map, right? But as a whole, I mean, now you're saying obviously businesses and restaurants, things like that.
That could still happen.
So you think, but would you say that it was, as a whole, was it kind of hurt Milwaukee as a whole more? Or?
No, I don't think there's any negative impact. Although that shooting incident at King Park, that was a very tragic situation. This is what I was kind of talking about. Some of the activists were saying, well, we warned you, having all these out-of-town police, that this could happen. They were right about that. I think the out-of-town police factor was a significant contributor to that incident because those out-of-town police officers were not familiar with the city. We're not familiar with our neighborhoods. We're not familiar with King Park. MPD is familiar with King Park. They know there's a homeless encampment there. They know many of those individuals suffer from mental disabilities and problems. And they might have taken a very different approach to that altercation. Might have even known the individuals because they've been there a while and the officers, MPD officers would know the individuals. They were right. I mean, bringing all that law enforcement in here could have led to these kinds of problems, and it turned out to do exactly that. I think the lack of protesting was very interesting. I expected a lot more protest activity than actually took place. Apparently there weren't guns everywhere in the soft zone as some of us feared going in. So I think overall Milwaukee did okay in terms of the public relations and the image of the city, but in terms of the economic benefits, grossly oversold.
Thank you for your time, Alderman.
Yeah, sure, guys.
Told the mayor to help me in a few minutes, so he's
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi.
Yes, you want well, I know that we wanted to come and do a debrief after the Republican National Convention that we held in Milwaukee just this past week. By many measures, the event was a success. Milwaukee got exposure not just across the United States, but really around the world. Many of the delegates that I had the opportunity to speak to myself said they had a tremendous experience. Being here in Milwaukee was their first time ever in the state of Wisconsin. And so when they go back and they tell stories about the convention, they'll talk about their experience here. And so their first impressions of Wisconsin is Milwaukee, and I think that's a really positive thing. I've often reflected on the fact that images of our city have been beamed into living rooms and have been beamed into C-suites, not just across the country, but around the world. I had the opportunity to speak with many members of the foreign press from, I think, 30 plus different countries about Milwaukee. And it was, I think, a remarkable success for us to be able to stage an event and host an event of that size, of that caliber, of that magnitude, and show the country that Milwaukee is in the space where we can do that. Because I don't want Milwaukee to be a city that is not thought about. That's the afterthought. I want Milwaukee to be the first thought. And I think that's what we helped to accomplish this past week.
Alderman Bauman just came up and talked to us. We didn't know he was going to talk, but he kind of had a different take. He said that this was oversold and restaurants and bars suffered. Nobody could get in and out of the zone. And he said that really it put the city to its absolute limits. What do you have to think about that?
Well, I think Alderman Bauman typically is not a friend of business anyway. However, I think that there are lessons that we could learn from this. I mean, this was our first time holding an event of this caliber, an event of this magnitude in the city. And I think that everybody ought to be pleased with how the city performed, how the city functioned in this. I mean, this really helped to elevate Milwaukee and shine an additional light on the city, the likes of which we've never seen before. And folks should be proud of that. I mean, this was a huge effort from everybody involved, from the local businesses to Visit Milwaukee, to the entire business community, to citizens in Milwaukee that were very patient with allowing this convention to happen here in our community, to public safety, law enforcement, especially the Secret Service. Everybody played in a tremendous role in making this happen. And I, quite frankly, am proud of Milwaukee and proud of the station that we'll have in the country because of this.
Do you know how quickly things are going to get cleaned up as far as, I mean, I know they're out there getting the barricades down, the fencing. Is that what that's going to look like this weekend?
I believe by Monday we should be up and running.
So for a lot of the people, they came here, they went to the convention center, they went to their hotel. Should there have been more done to get them out into the neighborhoods, to get them out to actually see the real Milwaukee?
Yeah, well, again, I mean, I encourage people to go out and adventure out, and I did meet with a number of people who said that they did venture out. I met with people who said that they walked beyond the security perimeter, went to the art museum or down near that area, went to parks, discovered that there were beaches in Milwaukee. So these are stories that delegates told me, and I'm happy about that. I think there's more opportunity for that to be done in the future. So I think we should have sort of an autopsy, a review about what happened here, and find ways that we can improve in the event that we're able to host another large-scale political nominating convention like this in the future, whether it's the DNC or perhaps another RNC at some point in the future. I do think that there are lessons that we can learn from this, though.
Will you do a review as the mayor's office?
I think that it's probably best suited for us to work with folks who are in the tourism and hospitality industry for us to make the best use of that.
I know it was been 24 hours since the convention wrapped up. I'm sure numbers aren't being crunched quite yet, but from what you've heard and what you're understanding from this week, how do you think the city did economically?
I don't know what that answer is. I mean, certainly, obviously, there was a lot of impact because folks were staying at hotels. That's an impact. Folks were, going out to restaurants. There's an impact. I know that folks, businesses locally, had the chance to sell their food and their wares and such at convention fests. Those are all local vendors, so there's an impact there too. I don't have those numbers at the ready right now. I'm hoping to get those numbers soon, though.
What do you think this means for Milwaukee long term? I mean, what can you do now that you seemingly hosted a fairly successful convention?
Look, I mean, Milwaukee was able to host a political nominating convention where the principle there potentially could be the President of the United States of America, the most powerful position on earth, right? And Milwaukee played a role in that. That's a powerful thing. And I think that this puts us in a position where we can better sell ourselves, pitch ourselves, to host other large-scale events, again, whether they're political, business, sports, entertainment, trade shows, the like. And when those things come here, especially without a security perimeter like the one we saw during the RNC, it'll put us in a position where we have a greater opportunity to impact our economy. I want to see a virtuous economic cycle that happens here with these other events coming to our city, helping to promote our tourism and hospitality industry, of which many people who actually live in the city of Milwaukee work in.
Mayor, during the early morning sessions that we were having this week, you gave law enforcement update. Any report on how the final night turned out as far as the law enforcement perspective?
Nope, just pretty uneventful, just like I had been reporting throughout the entire convention.
Anything, I was just gonna ask on a different note, have you heard anything about VP Harris's visit to Milwaukee next Tuesday?
Oh, the vice president? No, I know that she's coming next week, Tuesday. I don't know the details around it just yet, though.
Would you consider this a successful week all around?
All around, I say absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. I mean, again, there are spots where we can learn, where there are hiccups. Yes, especially when it's your first time hosting a large-scale event of this caliber in this city. So there's certainly things that we can learn and will learn. But overall, I think yes, it was a success, and that's not even just by my own estimation. I think by the virtue of people who attended the convention. I've talked to a number of people and have read stories about a number of people who have attended numbers of conventions. Just yesterday, I encountered two people in two different places rather, who both told me that they've attended five conventions. And this one in Milwaukee was by far the best, by far the absolute best. I just read a story just today about someone who attended 10 conventions, and this one in Milwaukee was the absolute best. So I think we're doing a really good job of showing Milwaukee, shining a light on Milwaukee, and putting the city in a better spot for success in the future.
So how does the city build on that?
I'm sorry?
How does the city build on that? What does it have to do next to benefit from that momentum?
Well, I think when we initially got the RNC, inquiries into Milwaukee began to rise already. Folks were getting more curious about it. I think as these delegates and folks in the media and the like, when they go home, they go back to their own communities, whether it's here in the States or it's elsewhere around the world, and they tell the story of Milwaukee, it'll create additional curiosity about the city. I think with all the cameras that we had here from around the United States and around the world, and you have, again, images of Milwaukee being beamed all over the place, that will also make people more curious. You got to remember that people, when they think about Wisconsin, right, typically they think about farms, or cheese or things like that. They don't necessarily think about a vibrant city like we have here. We were able to shatter that expectation and show people that there is a big city in the state of Wisconsin with big city amenities that's able to host a presidential nominating convention. And I think people just didn't really think about that. Now, they've got no choice but to.
Mayor Johnson, going into the upcoming presidential election, obviously after the RNC, we are this morning hearing from Wisconsin Republican leaders who say the convention was a success, but they're also feeling super confident about President Trump's chances in this election, while we're also starting to hear some Democrats, have concerns about President Biden staying in the race. I know previously you have been supporting President Biden's run for president in this upcoming election. Have your feelings changed on that, or where are you with that?
My feelings have changed not one single bit. Joe Biden is the only person in the United States ever to hand Donald Trump a loss in a presidential election. I think he stands the best chance to beat Donald Trump in November. I think he's got the advantage of incumbency. I think he's got the advantage of having run a very successful administration. And I think that the base of the Democratic Party is yearning for Joe Biden to stay in the race. They don't want to see, in my estimation, from what I'm seeing, from what I'm reading, they don't want to see millions and millions of votes in the primary to be tossed out of the window for folks behind the scenes to make this sort of decision. right? Voters want their voices to be heard in this, and that means Joe Biden and Kamala Harris should be at the top of the ticket for the Democrats as we lead into November. If we do that and folks rally around the president, then I think we'll win this election. Look, folks are having conversations about his poll numbers going down. Well, it's a news flash to Democrats. If you trash your incumbent leader, then his polls will go down. If you dig, guess what? You go deeper. That's exactly what Democrats are doing. I suggest that they stop doing that, rally around our president, and make sure we win this election in November because the stakes are too high.
We can do one more question.
Would you do this again?
We've got some homework to do to see what the results are from it. I anticipate that the answer to that would be yes, just sitting right here right now, but we got some homework to do.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Sorry.